Hey there. Oh my lordy, I hope there are no Robert McCammon fans in the audience watching this, because I'm about to say some very bad things about one of his more famous novels. Anyway, this is about Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Um, how can I sum up what this book is about? It's basically almost two novels in one. There's one novel which is just about a boy in 1964 to 1965 as he turns from 12 to 13. And it's about his day-to-day life. It's a meandering account of the town of Zephyr, Alabama that he lives in, and about the times that he's living through and just his life. It's basically like a slightly updated version of Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine. The other book is a murder mystery about a person that's drowned not drowned in a lake, he's killed before that, but he's put into a car and then the car is pushed into a lake. I have to say, I loved the first novel. I really loved that first novel. It worked really well. It's a exceedingly excellent and lyrical description of a young boy turning into a teenager, and about kind of the slow loss of a little bit of the magic of childhood as you go from being a young child to a teenager, and about how that obviously goes away the older you get. The other book, I have to tell you right now, I could not even force myself to be interested in the murder mystery. I got to page 300 in this book, did the math, realized there were about 200 more pages to go, and groaned inwardly, thinking that at least half of that time I'm going to have to be reading about the question of who committed this murder. I couldn't care less. I will say I think that is almost intentional by McCammon. I won't give away much, but there's a character called Vernon Thaxter in the town. He's basically the son of the town's richest person, and he's a little bit of a unsettled person. He tends to walk around completely naked the entire book. But there is one dinner party where the main character, the young boy and his father, are invited to a house, and Vernon has a discussion with the young boy, Corey Mackinson, and Vernon was trying to be an author and had written one book in his entire life, and he complained that his publisher had taken his book that was a meandering recounting of growing up in the small town of Zephyr and forced him to add in a murder mystery to it. So I think there was a bit of a meta commentary there. I don't know. I mean, I know Robert McCammon is a pretty well respected author, so I don't really think that happened, but if it did, that explains why this book was so schizophrenic in its presentation. But I'm not going to get into that. Let's discuss the themes of this book. I'm not even going to bother with the murder mystery. I'm sure if that book was a completely separate novel, I actually might have enjoyed it, but there isn't much to discuss there. What there is to discuss is the boy's life. And I really like that because, one, I don't know obviously I don't know what it is for girls when they're growing up, but for boys, going from the age of 12 to 13 is kind of a big step. You stop being a young boy and become a teenager. And when that happens, there's a certain level of childhood belief in magic that tends to dissipate a little bit. It's hard to explain, but the things you used to believe in, maybe you don't believe in them quite so much anymore. other things become more important. And what I really liked is that this book set that transition for Corey in the year 1964, when just as his life was changing in that year and a half that this book, takes place over, so was the country changing. It was really the kind of the beginning of the civil rights movement. It was the beginning of Vietnam. There was a lot of stuff going on, and it was kind of where actually a lot of the country went from being a young country to a teenager country, if that makes any sense. And I really like the juxtaposition of those two things. Like I said, this is basically, Robert McCammon's rewriting of Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury, which, by the way, review within a review, just go read Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. You will not be disappointed. But back to this book. I did like how he built upon the personal and the societal changes going through and kind of interwove those two things together. There's a certain amount of racial tension that delves into. I mean, it is Alabama in 1964. There's going to be some racial tension, especially with one of the characters being the lady, which is kind of like she's considered like the queen of Bruton, Alabama, where the black people all live, and she's a great character. I mean, there's no question she's a great character. She touches up on both sides of this book, and it's the one time in the whole murder mystery that whenever she showed up, I actually liked it. But I really think that the themes in this book were important to discuss. There are certain chapters in this book that just left me I had to stop reading for the day, because they were very well written. They spoke to some universal truths. Losing your first dog, having to have him put to sleep. Losing a friend after his friend hurts himself in a hunting accident. Things like that. I mean, things that encourage the slow growing up of Corey. Loved it. Is this book worth reading? For some people, if you're in just the right mindset, you will love this book. I'm not sure I was in the correct mindset the entire time, to be honest with you. Just because, like I said, there was a point where I just groaned as in the reading the rest of the book. But what kept me going was that discussion about how the kid was growing up very slowly, how he was learning life lessons over that time period, how he learned to slowly become himself. Really loved that. The murder mystery, I mean, like I said, for some people, this will be a really good addition to it. It'll keep them going. For me, it really didn't. I didn't like, but I mean, I'm not going to say it was a bad. I'm just going to say I didn't like it. So, I mean, my recommendation is I would say if you want to just like wallow away for a couple. It took me like 2 weeks to get through this book, which is really slow for me, because normally a 500-page novel I'd read in about less than a week. I mean, I've gone through The Stand by Stephen King in 2 weeks. This one took me 2 whole weeks to read for only 500 pages. But if you're in the right mood for it, if you're in the mood for a slow-moving, meandering story, it's wonderful. If you're not in the mood for it, do not bother with this novel. Come back to it when you are in the mood for it. Come back to it, though. But anyway, that's my review of Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. I'll see you again next week. And by the way, there's not going to be a review next Saturday because I've got something special coming up on this channel for Halloween. So give that a watch. Bye-bye.